Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to glorious Swordland, where I have no idea what I'm doing, as is the custom this week, because I have been unable to record for the previous month. But I am back. What do we have to do now? Okay, general staff gathers. Privatization plan. And Josef Lancia wants to meet. Let's see what he wants. I arrived at the cubic building that housed most of the military command that resided in Holsort. The grey and brutalist structure looked daunting. Never liked this building, it always made me feel like I was standing under the concrete foot of a giant getting ready to crush me. It made me feel small, and I never quite got used to the feeling even after this many years. At the entrance, I was greeted by Josef and his military entourage of young officers. Welcome to the Ministry of Defense, Mr. President. Let's go to my office. We walked from corridor to reach the office. On the way, we were met with high-ranking officers as well as privates. Every time one of these soldiers saw me, they stopped and saluted me. When we finally arrived at Josef's office, his entourage saluted us and left. He closed the door and took a seat. Isn't it the thing that you're not supposed to salute indoors? I don't remember. Well, this must be something. Yeah, this must be serious, especially since you invited me here. It is important that you don't get misinformed on this matter. Vulcan has another agenda. He leaned back and interlocked his hands. The situation with Rumberg is getting worse, and if it wasn't for our investments in the military, I would be even more concerned. We are prepared for the worst, aren't we, Josef? Truthfully, not fully prepared. We are still going through a few changes in the military to be able to confront them if such a day was to arrive. Our efforts to restructure the military should prove beneficial in a potential conflict. We would never be able to match the force of Rumberg on equal terms, therefore our switch of the military to a smaller, well-equipped and autonomously led combat units will prove better in the field. I trust that you will defend the country if it comes to the worst. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Now, why am I here? The recent military partnership we have signed with Agnolia includes mutual defense clause. In case of conflict, we will be obliged to come to each other's aid. In case of a Rumberg invasion, they will come for help. Do you think their support would be enough to hold the line? I don't think so. Mr. President, we need stronger allies. Sure, Agnolia is better than nothing, but we must look further. Lesbia or Valgsland are options in my opinion. Advice noted, I will bring it up to David. Any deterrence should force them to think twice. Yosef cleared his throat. Let's move on to our main topic. The mandatory conscription law has become a matter of discussion, and we need to strike a decision whether to keep it or remove it. The fact are that the conscription gives us a large reservist pool that can cover a large front line, but these troops lack the morale and quality to be offensive elements. It's the last step remaining to switch to a modern professional armed force. Our restructuring is hindered by 100,000 of cadets extending our logistics, slowing command structures, and reducing the combat efficiency of our experienced units. Well, if it's a hindrance, we should remove mandatory conscription. We need all of our resources concentrated on our efficient units that will outperform the enemy in our mountainous terrain. The choice is up to you. I thought for a moment before making my decision. Yeah, remove conscription. It's time to have a professional force of willing enlisted soldiers. Sure, the new changes will be implemented as you wish. A strong knock on the door was heard, and the chief of the armed forces, Vulcan Kruger, walked in quickly with a frown. What is the meaning of this, Joseph? Why haven't I been invited? Well, what is going on here? You are overstepping and interrupting a personal meeting between me and the president. Vulcan deliberated the situation. I see what's going on here. I mean no disrespect, but I am leading the ground operations and I must be informed of any strategic changes. Yeah. Pipe the fuck down. The Minister of Defense is your superior, and so am I. Disappointing. I'm sorry? Uh, I don't think I heard correctly. Are you talking back to your Commander-in-Chief? So this is how the administration conducts matters on military affairs. This is a meeting between the President and a member of the Cabinet. If I need a general present, I will call you. Vulcan looked furiously in my eyes. I could take my leave. It depends if this is the President's wish. Yeah. Please leave us to conduct a meeting in private, Vulcan. Vulcan left with a heart salute. We also have to decide how exactly we spend our additional remaining funds in the military. In June, we decided to upgrade the equipment of our military. The military thanks the administration for the extensive support, especially in creating a modern fighting force. We need to decide what branch we would want to modernize more. Well, which branch requires modernization the most? Strategically speaking, the army would be the safest choice, however, the air and naval forces would do well with further modernization, too. Which branch should we modernize? That's not what I asked. I asked which needed modernization the most. Let's go with the Air Force. Modernize the Air Force. We need better Air Force. As you wish, the changes will be implemented this month and finished at the end of November. That's about it. I won't take more of your time, sir. Thank you for your time. Left the Ministry of Defense and returned to the Maroon Palace. I mean, the Navy is important, especially because of this whole situation, but we share a land border with Rumburg, so it was either the Army or the Air Force. And I'm hoping that air support would make the difference. Okay, fall out of trade, shit. Resettlement order. Does not sound good. Women's Rights March. Airbase update. Police raid on young swords. Gonna at a standstill. Okay, what else? ATO hails nuclear breakthrough, advanced tech promises. Yay, more nukes, fantastic. Briefing on the current economic situation. All good, I'm sure. Everything is fine. The team gathered in Holsor, the Ministry of Economy, to go over the current economic situation. The building was constructed in 1892 by Heron Walt, possibly the most famous architect in Swordland. It was a simple and elegant structure, with a few of its signature domes spread out over the roof. I walked through the large bronze doors. Two assistants led me upstairs to a meeting room. Everyone stood up as I entered the room, buttoning their suit jackets. Welcome, Mr. President. Please take your seats. Everyone took their seats. As you all know, today we'll go over our economic status. Let's begin without any further ado. The ongoing trade war between Arcadia and United Contona has disrupted global trade immensely. Unfortunately, we couldn't escape the effects either. Our net losses are growing as a fallout, and we have lost a substantial amount of budget. David? There are no signs that either side is backing down for now. That's unfortunate, but on the bright side, we are not the only country in this state. Rumburg was hit especially hard. Okay. Do whatever you can to make sure Sardar citizens do not suffer more from this. We are doing everything we can to mitigate the disaster. The end of the tunnel is in sight, Mr. President. The aid we have received from Arcadia has helped us tremendously. Personally, I think it was a great decision, Mr. President. We will use the majority of the capital to combat the recession. Yeah, let's hope this decision won't come back to haunt us later on. I don't think that will be the case. Arcasians are known for their fair business. I'm not so sure. But, sure. How are we doing in terms of our infrastructure? The success of the first infrastructure project is already showing a positive effect on the economy. Mikhail started grinning as he leaned forward. Thanks to the highway, economic growth is returning to England. We are expecting new investments and jobs in the region. Many leaders on the Business Council have praised the logistical improvements. It was a gargantuan effort from our side in the Ministry of Economy. Yeah, positive results show that we are on the right path towards economic growth. See, the line is slightly going up. The people are already speaking of the positive turn. I can see the reactions in society. David, do you have the stats on our deal with Magnolia? Our trade deal with Magnolia has increased our imports and exports by 25% in 1 month, with much more to be expected in the future. The higher prices of Magnolian steel didn't result in a trade surplus. We should look for more trade partners. We can make much more and increase our presence in the region. I agree, not just the region, we should target more deals internationally. We should see our improved relations with Magnolia as a stepping stone to expand positive influence. I support our foreign initiatives with partners as democratic as Magnolia. I agree, aligning ourselves with more democratic countries is good for Scotland. It is good for overall trade with other countries as well. Democratic countries generate more trust in general. On a side note, consumer spending has decreased further due to a pessimistic mood caused by our economic issues. I'm confident we will turn this mood around with adaptive projects and solutions. Good to hear, we will do better. While I agree that our first attempts were not successful, we still might have economic opportunities left. It isn't good for our reputation that people expected quick solutions. We are running out of time. Furthermore, the recent trade war has caused dramatic economic upheaval in the wider region and Swordsland. We are tackling these with measures we have on our power at the CB to stabilize the market. The Central Bank has begun working on a bill with the Grand National Assembly to increase our preparedness for future damaging economic incidents. The embassy would also lend support to the analysis and contingency plans regarding the ongoing developments. I'm looking forward to further collaboration between our departments to solve upcoming issues. Simon checked his larger dossier. Our treasury is in a dangerous amount of debt. Yes, I know. If we don't reduce our debt in the future, we might fall in a debt crisis or worse. What are your suggestions on tackling this? I will work on some proposals regarding taxes to generate further revenues. As per the latest data from the Ministry, the recession unfortunately seems to be lingering still in some economic areas. No matter the cost, we will have to increase our economic development rates, otherwise I am sad to say that we will be doomed. We need to use the opportunities we have been given. Trade deals and infrastructure improvements always help. Mr. President, I will be very clear. Simon took off his glasses and put them on the table. He looked at me straight in the eye. You already know this, and I don't want to frighten you, but if we are unable to stop the recession, we are heading towards an economic catastrophe, and that has never been seen before in Swordland. No, in all of Eastern Merkaba. I can't even begin to imagine how we could survive that. None of us wants to see Swordish people starve while the state is unable to provide for its citizens. Then we need to get to work. Exactly. He put on his glasses. Now, there are a few methods we can use to tackle a recession. Our debt situation is awfully bad, and I heavily advise against further expenditures. However, I will still present new projects and leave the decision to you, Mr. President. There are two main distinctions between these projects. It's either about continuing our infrastructure improvements or investing in increasing production. If we continue working on our infrastructure, that would lift us up to advanced country levels. However, our industrial production also needs a boost to return to pre-recession levels. There's of course the option to not take any risks related to our budget. The plans for these projects will be finalized soon. For now, I can provide preliminary information. Which one would you like to hear first? Okay, I'm pretty sure we've already seen infrastructure. What's the production boost? For production, we have two projects. One is the Sarna Agricultural Zone, the other is the Conriat Industrial City. I see the Sarna Agricultural Zone investment as a higher priority due to the fact that farmers in Bergia were the most hit by the recession. Sarna also is a much poorer city than Conriat. Conriat Industrial City project has the potential to increase manufacturing in the greater Holsard region by a large amount. Yeah, Sarna is a poorer city. It deserves any investment it can get from the government. The recession has hit the farmers of Sarna particularly hard. Besides, the agricultural output increase would boost our economy. The investment won't be able to recover the industry there. Conrad, on the other hand, would bring more financial gain. Our government has the opportunity to support agriculture, and we should take it. It would increase our exports too. What about infrastructure? For infrastructure, we have two projects. One is the Banfi International Airport, and the other is the Morna Port. Banfi is growing at a rapid pace and would benefit highly from an international airport. Much more money to be made there too. The Morna Port will boost trade and improve the flow of goods towards Horsort, because the Conrad port is too small in capacity and extension is blocked by the Navy headquarters. I went for the port last time, it bit me in the ass, so let's go for the airport. Economic growth in Banfi could be propelled, it still has yet to reach its full potential. Banfi is rapidly developing, and there is much to gain from increasing its connectivity to the world. Imagine all the tourists that would arrive. We must focus on improving the well-being of our worst citizens. While in Morna is no porn city, it very well deserves investment. I have enough information. Very well. That covers our subjects for today. Anyone want to add something? Nobody answered. That concludes the meeting. Have a good day, all. Goodbye. Till next time, Mr. President. See you soon. Yes, I know. The budget is shit. PM Van Horten warns about Volkslandian presence. Polio cases discovered in rural Urizen. Protest against Governor Braun's resettlement order. Ersen v. Swordland. Polish civil rights. Okay. Investment in mega project. Sure. For available investments. Sure, let's build the airport. It's gonna bite me in the ass, but line's going up. Nia Morna and Lilias Graf scheduled a meeting to discuss ongoing legal case that required my attention. Early in the morning, we convened in my office. Thank you for being here at this hour, Mr. President. We need to inform you about some news from Bergia. There is a court case initiated by a Bloodish citizen which involves a possible revision of the Constitution. Unfortunately, it has the potential to affect the whole country. I'm listening. I'll start from the beginning. As you know, after the discovery of KA-74s, in separatist hideouts, there have been more than a few attacks initiated and claimed by the BFF. Due to the lack of security funding, I just gave you more funding, some of these otherwise avoidable attacks couldn't be stopped. This led to some increase in the tensions in Bergia. We'll lay aside. The main problem is with the security structure of Bergia. Due to the special status of the region, operations on the ground are run by local security forces that are not bound to the interior, which means my hands are tied. However, with the rising tensions after Operation Bear Trap, we have also been receiving more and more intelligence about some kind of a preparation by the terrorists. We can't allow the conflict in Velen to spread to Sorland, and we know that the Velen and Sorland divisions of the BFF are in close cooperation. That's precisely why I didn't want to make a deal with Velen. That was the right decision. Well, it didn't seem to have stopped the tensions from increasing. Their war against the BFF has bolstered their resolve inside our country. The increasing threat of the BFF led Governor Braun to justifiably resort to his emergency powers to curb the danger. And you don't fight an insurgency by cracking down on it, that just feeds it. Have to negotiate and remove their... You remove the reason the insurgency started in the first place, and by doing that, the radical violent elements lose all support. His discovery of militant training grounds disguised as schools was commendable, as well as his quick handling of bomb threats coming from major cities like there. However, his latest policies have been questionable, especially the Peaceful Resettlement Order. It has been met with massive anger from the majority of the Bloods in the region. That's a massive understatement. Governor Braun has abused his powers and clearly acted against the Constitution. And quite surprisingly, Ishval Ersen has managed to successfully push his case to the higher courts. He is suing Felix Braun for infringing upon the liberties of British people. He also raises a conflict in the Constitution and argues that the way it is written makes it open to interpretation and allows people like Governor Braun to abuse their powers. Okay, what exactly does Ersen claim about the conflict in the Constitution? As you know, the Rights and Liberties Act, Article 7 alludes to are described in Article 100 in further detail. All citizens are in theory can exercise. Wait, typo here. All citizens in theory can exercise their rights prescribed in these articles and are equally subject to law as described. And these rights cannot be suspended by the government under any circumstances other than a defensive war. Mr. Ersen claims the line "every sword is equal before the law" in Article 7 does not include other ethnicities, and thus gives the state the right to suspend or limit the rights of non-swords, defined in Article 100. Courts have repeatedly protected Governor Braun in the past, and it is true that he bets on Mr. Hawker justifying his actions through Article 7. However, there is also Article 6, which the courts could have taken into account already. And what is the problem with Article 6? As no Article 6 goes, everyone who is bound to the Sworded State by citizenship is a sword, which clarifies clearly that the Constitution does not discriminate against other ethnicities or cultures. Citizens of this country are called swords. But did you ask Bloodish people what they think? Yes, it's true that this article has protected them on a number of occasions, as it defines sword as a non-ethnic term, but it is left up to the interpretation of the courts. They could have argued that Article 6 extends the rights defined in Article 7 to all citizens of Swordland, regardless of race, but they didn't, yet. They can potentially push this case to the Supreme Court. And what are the accusations against the governor? Mr. Braun has sadly evicted thousands of Bloods from their homes in there recently. The fact that this has happened in a city with relatively low levels of BFF activity is a sloppy decision at best. Sloppy decision? This is a direct violation of the right of property. The BFF activity levels have nothing to do with this. But it does, Mr. Morgana. The state can take any measures to fight with terror inside its borders. The decision would have been justified if those neighborhoods were in fact labeled as a threat level red. But they were not. Hence, he did not have the authority to evict those citizens. In this case, in Dyer, the governor has definitely violated his authority. You aren't playing it. This eviction was only the last of the many he ordered as part of Bergia's peaceful resettlement projects. This is not about Dyer. There are hundreds of accusations listed in this case, ranging from violent actions by law enforcement officers to open discrimination in local municipalities. Calm down, Nia dear. Oh, that is so condescending. Fuck you. I'm not disagreeing with you. Okay, what is this case about? Ishval Ersen is claiming that the current constitution gives the legal grounds to discriminate against Bloodish people, directly infringing upon their rights as citizens. He claims Article 7 of the Constitution, citing the line "every sword is equal before the law," is in direct conflict with the freedoms and rights defined in Article 100. Governor Felix Braun is accused of using Article 7 to justify his oppression of the Bloodish community. And who is let's since we've clicked everything else, who is Ishval Ersen? Ishval Ersen is a lawyer and Bloodish rights activist. He lives in there and has experienced the systemic racism in the region firsthand. He was evicted last month from his home in Dare on the grounds of threatening public stability and safety. He was also shot at by local law enforcement forces several times in the last 2 years and managed to survive it all so far. The attackers, of course, were never punished. As much as the eviction seems unjust, Mr. Ersen must be further investigated for his potential ties to dangerous organizations. I'm sure you think that. I'd like to believe the forces wouldn't have fired at him without proper reason. Of course not. Of course not. We all know that cops never shoot innocent people. Perish the thought. What the British community is going through in Bergia is unacceptable. We must do what it takes to stop this madness. That we must. Nia stacked the papers in front of her. In any case, the situation might be troubling if it reaches the Supreme Court and Mr. Hawker manages to sabotage it by altering the current interpretation. It could be disastrous for Bloodish rights. I will be doing my best to ensure a positive result comes out of this, but I'm not sure if the centrists will be willing to agree with Mr. Ersen. Why would Mr. Hawker even sabotage it? The current interpretation is strictly solist. I'm sure he will follow the Constitution and charge Governor Braun for unconstitutional behavior. Yes, I'm sure he will. And butterflies will come out of a Supreme Court and form a nice rainbow, and everyone will be happy living in peace. According to the foundational values of this republic, everyone who is a citizen of this country is a sword. The Constitution is clear about this and does not allow for discrimination. Maybe Hawker is not the man you think he is, Miss Rao. From what I've heard, his stance on this subject may not be the standard solist interpretation, but something darker. I'm afraid he'll reject the case altogether and find Governor Braun innocent. If this happens, it would make discrimination against Bloodish people legal. Do you think they'd go that far? According to the rumors within the Supreme Court, yes, it's already unusual that the case is making its way up to them. To be honest, I don't think this is a matter for our administration. We must keep out from judicial affairs. As much as I hate to say it, I somewhat agree with Leaz on this. I prefer to keep the status quo over risking a complete abolishment of rights. We still have the power to make tangible reforms. What if you can convince the justices to agree with Ersen? Wouldn't that give the precedent to change said articles of the Constitution? If the Supreme Court agrees that the Constitution is in conflict with itself, yes, but I don't know if you are serious or not, Mr. President. I'm afraid even Justice Edmonds and the centrists would be completely against that. It would be a very difficult scenario. As I said, I think the government has better things to do than meddle with judicial affairs. There is, however, something that the government can do to address the situation on the ground. It is time we push for a change within the security structure of Bergia, and the special status that resulted in the de facto autonomy. It clearly isn't working. The resettlement policies in Bergia and Ersen case have changed the mood of the lawmakers. We can use this opportunity to push for the removal of Tarkin Sol's security zone decree. This is a much bigger possibility than before. Of course, racism is rampant throughout our country, but Bloodish citizens inside Bergia are having a much worse time than the Bloodish residents of cities like Glashhaven or Holsworth. If we focus on Bergia, we can remove its special status. This alone would be a huge step for Bloodish rights. Unfortunately, as long as Governor Braun is in charge of Bergia with the powers he has, no judicial reforms would reverse the situation on the ground. To put it simply, we want to work on a detailed proposal to restructure Bergia. I believe it must become a region of Swordland like any other. We must centralize the system and abolish the local security forces. Are you sure we can even revoke the special status? We can't be sure of anything, Mr. President. You know this better than me. But Lilias and I both believe there is potential to get more MPs behind the idea. It is true, some members of my circle inside the party are keen on this as well. They are starting to believe Sol's policy on Bergia has already run its course. If we play our cards right during the process of this case, while we work on the preparation of a strong proposal for the special zone, we can gather enough support behind it. We have to try. Okay, let's hear about the proposal. Nia and I both agree that we need to abolish the special zone of Bergia. This is the first point that the proposal will address. This will also mean taking away the special authority of the governor. I agree with removing the governor as well as his insane authority, but I don't support a complete centralization of the region. I propose that we restructure the special zone, democratize it, and acknowledge the Bloodish movement. How does that resolve anything? How do you solve any problem by dividing the region from the rest of Sorland? We've tried that already. Let her speak. Thank you, Mr. President. Millions of Bloodish peoples suffered over the last decades. We saw massive uprising, terror attacks, and a governor going rogue. These people only wanted to live in this country as equals, but they were denied that. Why don't we allow Bergians to elect their own local government? Why is Holsart so keen on prying into the lives of the Bloodish people? We should replace the oppressive laws of the special zone with a democratic system that allows for proper local representation. I propose the Bergia semi-autonomous region. I'm sorry to tell you, Miss Morgana, but Bergia is part of Sorland as much as England or Holsart. You're bringing secessionist Fetty Ajal's lifelong quest here as your proposal. What's wrong with you? What's next? Secession of Bergia and the formation of an independent Bloodish state? Maybe, if that's what they want. Autonomy for England? Again, if that's what they want. And why don't you hold a referendum for the Rums of Estard? And ask them if they want to join Rumburg. While you're at it. Sorry, Elias, but I'm supportive of a semi-autonomous Bergia. This is what the mainstream Bloodish movement wants. I'm completely disagree. Please hear me out, Mr. President. I've heard you out, and I've made my mind. My proposal is very simple. The special zone must be fully revoked, governor powers taken away, and the local security forces must be abolished. Only then Bergia can be equal part of Sorland. I propose we unite Bergia with the rest of Sorland and enforce the same laws and policies as any other Sordish region, dismantling the current semi-independent security structure in the process. We will hold local municipal elections just like every city in Sorland, and the security of the region will be under the full control of the Ministry of the Interior. We can no longer allow their forces to pursue violence with impunity. If this was a problem that the central government could fix, your mighty colonel could have solved it already. The assimilation policies clearly didn't work. What does that have to do with anything? Just calm down. Let's stop the argument. I've already made my mind. I'm just saying the solution is not a rushed unification. We must acknowledge that Bergia is a unique region with its own culture and history. We cannot disregard the social reality. Nia has a point. Peaceful assimilation is also not the solution. We must finally listen to what the village people want. Nia smiled. Great, I can start working on the proposal immediately. Yes, it's been decided, Miss Morna. You can get to work immediately. I'm counting on you. Thank you, Mr. President. I'll start working on it immediately. Lilias looked incredibly furious, but kept herself quiet. I doubt that she would forget about this. To have a structure that will actually solve the problem of the region, we will need to conduct in-depth research beforehand. I believe it will take some time. My estimate is that the proposal will be ready sometime after your constitutional amendments are voted on. You can choose whether to enact it then. Perfect. Get to work immediately. Great, I'll get to work. See you later, Mr. President. They bid farewell and left the room. Well, hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me in the ass, but that is going to be it for this episode. Thank you all so very much for watching. As always, I have been Pope. Please do remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.